And so here we go. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today. We'll take a look at some clips from the news, share a little bit of dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And if you happen to be listening anywhere else and you wanted to join the live portion as well, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. That's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta, as well as on Rumble, Coffee Talk 2 with the number 2, as we get ready to jump off here. A lot to talk about today. There are a few more things about Karmelo Anthony that I would like to address and then put that to bed, at least until they get to trial, because, you got to be careful about all the hearsay. And of course, we want to talk about Trump on ABC News last night, and a reporter who blew a great chance, being joined today by Daniel. You don't see Daniel too often. That is Daniel sleeping in the chair behind me, making himself nice and comfortable. And as always, I try to read through as many comments as is reasonable. And I'll say hello to some of the people chiming in so far on the live portion. See, Jeff is with us, Helter, Tuck, Brian, Dragon, Monkey, and Armored saying hello, and hello to everyone else who is listening or watching and cannot or does not want to chime in. Glad you could join us anyway. And of course, I know there's a lot of people who listen after the fact. More people see this after the live than during it. And again, special thanks to William for making a donation to the channel. Sent something directly to the PayPal for the cat shelter. Always appreciated, as we get ready to jump off here into a New York Post article. New York Post article talking about the 100 days. Yesterday was 100 days in office. The 100 days interview that took place on ABC News with Donald Trump, just talking about the presidency. I see Raccoon has joined us, as well as Peter, who's still waiting on those Epstein files. Something was, I think something was about to go down before that witness was demised. We read that story on Monday. She was put in the drawer on Monday by her own hand, allegedly. And it makes me wonder if something was about to happen, but we'll see. And I don't blame you, Peter. I totally understand. New York Post talking about the interview on ABC. Trump spars with ABC's Terry Moran, or Moron, I guess, over tariff policy, deportations, and Ukraine in a testy interview. And it was. The guy was combative. I guess he saw this as an opportunity to virtue signal, to show off, instead of just conducting an interview. Oh, well, the pop-up ads are killing me here. I can't even see the article. Don't you hate modern technology? I swear we've lost more than we've gained when you boil it all down. We really have. I think we've lost more than we've gained. Just joined us. I did get your article, Puck. I don't know if I'm going to have time to get to it. Looks like StreamYard is lagging just a hair. Give me a break, StreamYard. Article reads, President Trump and ABC News on one sit-down Tuesday to mark the Commander-in-Chief's first 100 days back in the White House. Trump, who has previously taken issue with several of the Walt Disney Company owns network hosts, got into heated back and forth with Moran over tariffs, mass deportations, and the Ukraine war during the nearly hour-long primetime interview. Hey, at least it wasn't edited. I'm thinking about Harris, who shows up 20 minutes late for her interview, barely gives a 20-minute interview, has to be heavily edited, and she sounds like she's drunk the whole time. At least he can talk off the top of his head. Trump, Moran first pressed Trump on the 145% levies he imposed on China, arguing the tariff is bound to raise prices on everything, a claim which the president strongly disagreed, which I disagree also. Prices haven't really changed. As a matter of fact, prices so far have been coming down. Not a lot, but enough that it's noticeable. It says, quote, "You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it," Trump interjected at one point in the interview. True, because nothing has actually happened yet. Moran says that's mathematics. Trump says China probably will eat the tariffs. They're either going to eat it or they're going to renegotiate. They're going to do something. They've already been renegotiating. They started folding yesterday, as a matter of fact, and we read that article because they need the liquefied natural gas to produce their plastic products, and we're the only supplier. Yeah, Peter, he says media is silent on egg prices now. Exactly. They have come down quite a bit. It says Trump goes on to say they were making from us over $1 trillion a year and ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off. Everything's going to be fine. It wouldn't have been if I didn't do this. On immigration, president's most popular issue with voters. True. Trump described his efforts to combat illegal border crossings and deport criminal migrants as the most significant accomplishment of the first 100 days. Moran tried to get Trump to acknowledge that under our law, every single person who gets deported gets a hearing first, which the president refused to agree with on a legal point. He goes on to say, and this is a quote, "When Biden allowed 21 million people to flow into a country, did we give them a hearing when they came in?" Trump asked the newsman, who continued to insist the law requires every migrant deported to receive a hearing first. That is not true. That is not true. And the media keeps saying that. The media keeps saying it, and a lot of politicians and activists keep saying that. It isn't true because they're not citizens and because they fall directly under federal jurisdiction. That's why the states aren't allowed to interfere with what ICE is doing. They don't have to help them, but they can't interfere with it. And they keep harping on that. Oh, they're entitled to due process. Did they get due process, the millions of illegals that Obama threw out? And did anyone say anything to him then? Trump indicated he would ask lawyers about that, but maintained the trials for 21 million people would result in too slow of a process. That's true also. If they had to have a trial for everybody, that would cost a fortune and it would take forever. Flukeman's here. He says UK's local elections is tomorrow. The current leader is scared. Hopefully the voters have woken up since he's been in office and vote the other way. We shall see. Time will tell. Time will tell. Big Sonny suggests the media is the greatest enemy of the people. It sure as hell looks that way, doesn't it? And Puck suggests also immigration falls under Article 2, not Article 3. Good point. And then one more from Peter here as I get back into the article. Australian election in a few days also. People need to watch closely. In Australia, you have to vote by law. True. Or you have to have a legitimate excuse. So it'll be interesting how many vote twice. And Australia, by the way, is on the bandwagon with slamming Trump. Like they're following suit with Canada. I saw that in an article yesterday. And Trump suggests that they'll get whatever the lawyers say they get. Now here, of course, is what is his name? Kilmar Garcia, The person who they originally claimed was arrested for wearing a bull's hat. Then they claimed it was because of his tattoos, but he's just this innocent man who was sent to El Salvador. Moran, back to the article, zeroed in on the case of Kilmar Garcia, the illegal immigrant and alleged MS-13 gangbanger. It's not alleged, it's tattooed on his hand, at the center of a court battle related to Trump's use of the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to swiftly deport migrant gangsters. Quote here, the lawyer said it was a mistake, was here a long time, was not appointed by us, should not have said that, Trump said, responding to a former judge, Abrego Garcia, was wrongfully returned to El Salvador. This is an MS-13 gang member, a tough cookie, been in lots of skirmishes, beat the hell out of his wife, according to Trump here. This is not an innocent, wonderful gentleman from Maryland. And I should point that out. Also, the lawyer made a mistake. What he's referring to, and I don't think it's in the article, is that he had a special protection. Garcia had a special protection seeking asylum based on the fact that a rival gang had him on their hit list in El Salvador. Okay. And he was allowed to stay in the country under that, but that particular threat no longer exists. So that special injunction on his behalf also no longer exists. And JJ has joined us. Glad you could make it today. And Monkey says, I've seen people say the MS-13 on the photo that the White House used is fake. Yeah, I'm going to get into that because he does bring this up. Obviously, what's his name? Moran implies you could get him back. Trump says he probably could, but he's not going to. Trump insists the Salvadorian national has MS-13 printed on his knuckles. And then Moran says that was Photoshop. And Trump says that was Photoshop. Terry, you're not being very nice. Moran finally tried to move on when the president argued the tattoo on Garcia's knuckles were as clear as it can be. All right, Moran said, we'll take a look. And the president offered to show him the picture. Moran says he's seen the picture. That's the president holding the picture in that photo. Basically what it is, Monkey, is it's symbols, okay? It's like hieroglyphs. So he's got pictures on his knuckles. Each picture represents a letter or a number. And what they did was the law enforcement agency that originally photographed his tattoos deciphered the hieroglyphs and on the photo put the letters and numbers to match what they mean on his tattoos. It's a common law enforcement procedure. So the photo that's been circulating that says MS-13, the MS 1 and 3 are representative of the symbols that are printed on his hand as to help to translate what the symbols mean. So that part, the translation is photoshopped, but the rest of it is not. I mean, every photo that this guy has is not photoshopped. There are many photos of this guy circulating that demonstrate those tattoos. Yeah, there you go. Monkey explains that after I just did. He says people don't realize it's edited, translating what each tattoo or symbol represents. Exactly. And Puck said Maryland man got above and beyond due process. They need to give up on that. Yeah, but that's the argument that's being made, is that it's photoshopped because of the translation that's on the photograph. And then the guy goes, the guy says, well, we'll just agree to disagree, Moran. And I hate that phrase. And I will tell you, my only experience with it comes from the LGBT community. Those are the only people I ever hear saying it. I don't hear normal people in regular life. Maybe you have heard this. Maybe you've heard people say it. Oh, well, we'll just agree to disagree. I've only heard that from the LGBT community. I don't hear that from everyday people. I don't hear that from everyday people. Okay. So I'm not implying that Moran is gay. I don't know. But that's the only time I ever hear it. Then he goes on to whine about the war in Ukraine, and he says Moran asks him if he trusts Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Trump says, "I don't trust you. I don't trust a lot of people." He doesn't trust Putin. I don't trust a lot of people, but I do this. I think that Putin, let's say he respects me, and I believe because of me, he's not going to take over the whole, but his decision, his choice would be to take over all of Ukraine. I want to leave that because he won't talk about what the negotiations currently are. He's been in the middle of it for a while. Peter says agree to disagree means I don't have an argument. Yeah, not a reasonable one anyways. At least he doesn't sit there cussing him. The guy was very difficult. He was very difficult. He could have asked his questions and just left it open-ended for the viewers to decide without being argumentative or confrontational about it. But that's what a lot of these guys do now, unfortunately. That's what a lot of these guys do now. A lot of these reporters, they want a virtue signal. They want to play up to whatever authority is paying them instead of just being objective. Again, he could have asked his questions, just let the president answer and allow for the viewers to make their own decisions. But they don't want you to do that anymore. Instead of presenting facts or at least whatever you have to viewers, to readers, and letting them form their own opinion, you tell them what their opinion is. You tell them how to think, what to believe, how to feel about it. Now you have to sit there and listen to these people and decide if what they're telling you is even true. Yeah, John has joined us. You see Daniel sleeping in the chair behind me. Monkey wants to know if the ABC person, Moran, ever heard of Egyptian hieroglyphs or even binary coding. I want to see them translating it to English. Yeah, they know. That guy knows. He knows that lettering and numbering on that tattoo was a translation. He knows that. He's relying on the fact that most of the people watching won't know that, which is manipulation. He's manipulating his viewers, counting on A, that they're dumb, and or B, that they're too lazy to do any research, which unfortunately is true. People are not very smart and people are not going to bother to do any research. So they're not going to look it up. They're not going to bother to look it up. Obviously, that was typed on that photo or transferred over the photo to translate it. Rodney is here. He says MSM are nothing but propaganda at this point. And Rodney made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you very much, Rodney. All the help we can get. All the help we can get. And Puck suggests Terry only knows what his earpiece tells him. Basically, they're not journalists anymore. They are reporters, and reporters are basically actors of a sort. And JJ says not only is it manipulation, it's also being a butthole. True. And you've all, if you've been watching long enough, you've heard me say it before. I know most people are not that smart, but you don't have to treat them like that. You don't have to treat them like that. You don't have to treat them like they're idiots. You should be helping them, encouraging them, trying to be honest with them so that they can grow, so that they can learn. Nah, we're going to take advantage of them. That's what we're going to do. That's what they're going to do. But getting into the subject of the thumbnail, again, wanted to talk about Carmelo Anthony a little bit more, and then I'm going to put it away at least until the trial. At least until the trial. And by the way, a good way to tell whether or not an actual person or an AI generated bot wrote the story is in the spelling of the name or in references to the NBA, because there is also a Carmelo Anthony who's an NBA player, and the name is spelled identically except for there's a C instead of a K. And I have read articles that says Carmelo Anthony, 17-year-old NBA star who fatally stabbed so-and-so. And I'm like, yeah, AI wrote this. AI wrote this because it's merging the two. And I'm like, not only are you so lazy, you're not writing your own story, you can't even be bothered to proofread it. You can't even be bothered to proofread it. And Michael says they're prostitutes. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Excuse me, prostitutes instead of prostitutes, whoring themselves for a big paycheck. Fox News article, and this is a local Fox News article from Texas, I believe. KDFW. I could be wrong. I think it's from Texas. Carmelo Anthony bond conditions. Now, just to cover a couple of points, because something has come up about the bond. So they tell you basically that he's had the bond reduction. We know this. Okay. Frisco murder suspect Carmelo Anthony back at home after he bonded out of jail on Monday. A judge agreed to reduce his bond from $1 million to $250,000, which is a significant drop. A significant drop. He has to be under house arrest with an ankle monitor. I believe he also has to report to a bailiff, right? Let's see. After the judge granted his bond reduction, and I'm still not sure if the bond who granted the reduction is the same bond who gave him the $1 million bond in the first place. Anthony was given terms, fitted with an ankle monitor, placed on house arrest. He'll only be allowed to leave the house if he has prior approval from the court. He's to be supervised by a parent or a designated adult at all times. He is not allowed to have any direct or indirect contact with Austin Metcalf's family. He is allowed to go to his attorney's office for scheduled meetings. He must check in with a bailiff every Friday morning until he's moved to a different court. The court requires Anthony's family to update the address within the Collin County Sheriff's Office if they need to relocate. And that comes into question also. It's about where exactly he's living. Violating the bond conditions could land him back in county jail. The judge advised Anthony to stay away from social media. Well, he doesn't have to go on social media. Everyone else is doing it for him. Everyone's doing it for him. That's the basic bond conditions. Again, I'm not sure if the same judge who gave him the original bond is the same judge who reduced it. The reason, again, that bond was set that high, or typically is set so high, is because the judge in question either assumes there's a flight risk or that the family can afford a high bond. So they set it really high to discourage the family from releasing that individual. From releasing the individual. Puck says the thug's only opportunity to receive a lighter sentence was to show remorse. He's gone out of his way not to do so, as has the family. As has the family. You all, many of you were here when I reviewed the interview with the mother. When the family came forward, Carmelo's family came forward to a public interview where Mr. Metcalf, the victim in question's father, was in attendance and then asked to leave. And they insulted him in their opening statements, told him that his presence was a disgrace to Austin's death, a disgrace to his son, which is horrible to say. I think most fathers would want to hear what they would have to say. I think I might show up, and that could have been handled a lot better than to insult the man. Maybe open up with something like, you might have heard that Mr. Metcalf was here. It was decided that maybe this isn't the best time. He's gone home. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Don't be petty. Then she read what was, a speech that was obviously written for her, that was very unapologetic, and blamed basically the media and the other family and everybody else for their miseries. No focus whatsoever on the fact that her son had committed a murder. Maybe that's why you're in trouble. Maybe that's why you're in trouble. I'll keep putting up some of these comments. I'm not going to read all of them, but I'll put them up so that everybody can see them. Now, the bond comes into question because of rumors of who paid it. Rumors about who paid it. Okay. Let me make sure this is even going to open, because it's acting pretty sluggish. I'll have to give it a minute. Rumors about who paid it. And there's other arguments as well. Like I've been getting comments on some of the previous videos that I've done from people talking about specifically the crowdfunding. Well, if President Trump can profit from his mugshot, why can't Karmelo profit from a crowd fund or from selling T-shirts? Well, Trump didn't kill anyone. Trump didn't take anyone's life. Did he? Pretty sure. Pretty sure he didn't kill it. He didn't kill anybody. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference there. Talking about profiting. Having a problem with this, having a problem getting this article open, okay? Having a problem getting this article open. And it's from a local news story. Felon claims bail bondsman funded teen stabbing release. And for some reason, it's not opening. Because it is, I got it now. Hold on. It was crashing, but I think I got it now. So I'll go ahead and open that. Raccoon says there should be no bond for murder, which he admitted to. He admitted to, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. I wanted to show this while it's still working, and I'll get that open. Sorry for the delay. And this is a local news source, county local news. Felon claims bail bondsman funded teens stabbing release. Okay. And this is what it says. After the bond hearing and the reduction granted by Judge Angela Tucker, our NGAN team and security staff escorted Karmelo Anthony's family to no-limit bail bonds in Oak Cliff. Pastor Corey Toney, that's Toney, Pastor Corey Tony, the owner of No Limits Bail Bonds and respected business leader in our city, who is also, by the way, an activist, quietly stepped in and covered the entire bond for Carmelo Anthony free of charge. He didn't ask for recognition. He didn't want spotlight. I believe it's important to celebrate people who show up when it matters most. This is a quote from Dominique Alexander. Okay. So he's praising Corey Tony for doing this. Peter says Alex Soros paid it. Nope, he may as well have, though. He may as well have. So if this is true, and I've read this in a couple of stories, but I'm not finding it in mainstream. I'm finding it in like local news sources, but no big news sources that I've found. If anyone knows somebody bigger, CNN, Fox News, anybody, talking about this, it would be nice. It would be nice. So in a recent development that has captured the attention of social media users and news outlets, Dominique Alexander, a known felon and self-proclaimed family advocate for, there it is, advocate for NBA star Carmelo Anthony, has made alarming claims regarding a man named Corey Tony. Tony is the owner of No Limits Bail Bonds and has reportedly provided the full bond amount for 17-year-old individual involved in a stabbing incident. The revelation has sparked discussions around the integrity of bail bond practices and the backgrounds of those involved in such cases. If he did skip bail, they wouldn't be able to collect it now. Dominique Alexander is a controversial figure who's been in the spotlight due to his criminal background and his role as a family advocate. Although he has positioned himself as someone who supports families in need, his past raises questions about motivations and legitimacy. I don't care about all that part. But again, evidently, pastor / bail bondsman / community activist Corey Tony apparently footed the entire bill and asked not to be named. Asked not to be named in this. And again, I'm not finding this in mainstream media. Not finding this in mainstream media, only finding this in like small sources, local sources. And I, as you saw, even had trouble getting the damn thing open. Had trouble getting the damn thing open. And I get a lot of backlash on in some of the comment section for previous comments that I've made, telling me that I'm spreading a false narrative and that I don't know what the facts are and things like this, and that he was defending himself and that Carmelo was being bullied, which again, and we've already read these articles, both schools have confirmed, unless something new has been discovered, that they didn't even know each other. They didn't even really know each other. So how was he getting bullied? And again, if he was being bullied, why go and start something? He's claiming self-defense. If he's going to try to, if I was the attorney, the speculation, I would advise them not to acknowledge any bullying claims. That's a mistake, in my opinion. That's a mistake because it denotes premeditation. Even if you were being bullied, okay? I'm bullied, so I went to that track meet to confront them, bringing a lethal weapon and used it against an unarmed individual. That's premeditation. That's a good way to end up with murder one. He could have said, instead of saying defending myself, he could, again, advice if I was an attorney, me speculating, say that you felt threatened, you produced the knife didn't think you were going to hurt him. I thought I would cut him or scare him. I didn't think he was going to die. You might get away with manslaughter. Involuntary manslaughter if you claim you didn't know. I didn't realize. I didn't know. Maybe you could get away with involuntary manslaughter, which could still carry a jail term. But as it appears on its surface, it looks like premeditated murder. You brought a weapon to a place that doesn't allow them. You've been in public school long enough. You know that weapons aren't permitted on school grounds. Brought a dangerous weapon, a potentially lethal weapon. You started an argument, according to witnesses, started an argument. Produced a knife and stabbed someone with lethal ending, with a lethal conclusion. Admitted it on camera when the first law enforcement responder showed up, which was a school police official. Admitted it on camera. I'm not alleged I did it. And then proceeds to ask, which this looks really shady, basically if it will work if he said he was defending himself. To which, of course, the officer's like, hey, don't ask me questions. Tuck says it looks like a hate crime. It does. Brian says it sounds like he's the bully, very likely. JJ says stabbing incident sounds much less serious than what actually happened. Yeah. But that, I mean, if I was a lawyer, that's what I would tell him to do. Shut up about bullying. Shut up about all of that self-defense nonsense. I would, tell him you were trying to scare the kid. And again, this is me talking as a lawyer, just speculating. I'm not a lawyer, but pretending I am. Tell him you were trying to scare him. You swiped, you did something stupid, and he got killed. And you're like, oh, crap. Didn't mean to do it, didn't know. Puck says it'll take a hell of a rigged trial for him to escape prison. Yeah. And Peter says, didn't the police say they had video of the murder? That I haven't heard. That I have not heard. Now, the other question that comes in, but again, the whole I was bullied nonsense, it doesn't fly. Even if you were bullied, it doesn't allow for you to escalate a situation to actual murder. And that makes the entire situation entirely premeditated, which works against him. It works against him. Premeditated, hey, you're guilty. It doesn't matter what you thought you were trying to do. Especially, again, since you're not allowed, a student is not allowed to bring a weapon on school grounds. He knows that. They all know that. So it's not even like you're walking around in the street and you have a knife on you. I carry a knife. But if I have to go in the VA building, I got to leave it in the car. You know what I'm saying? Because they check for that. Or you go into a Social Security building, or you go any place like that, or the courthouse, and they're like, hey, you got a knife, go put it back in your car. Okay. Because that's the rule. If I brought it in anyway and got into a skirmish, I'm in trouble too. New York Post article getting into this aspect of it. Karmelo Anthony living with family in $900,000 home in a gated community and bought a new car after release on bond. This is an update, okay? Because before, the argument was, oh, they bought a new house, they bought a new car. Apparently, they did not buy a new house, but they did buy a new car. to buy a new car. And there's complaints about them being in that neighborhood. And apparently they already own a home and they're renting this one, which I don't understand. They claim it's for safety reasons, but I've also read, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of you might have seen an article on this. I don't have one pulled up, but you might have seen an article on this, that they debunked. The family was not being honest about that. So Texas teen accused of fatally stabbing high school football star at a track meet allegedly lives in a $900,000 home with his family inside a luxurious gated community, despite requesting the judge lower his bond, which, as we just read, apparently they didn't even pay. Carmelo Anthony's holed up with his family at the pricey home inside the gated community of Richwood in Frisco, Texas, after he was released from jail. The home, where the rent is estimated at $3,500 per month, has a white Suburban, a black Acura, excuse me. I'm thinking anime here. Akira! And a third sedan in the driveway, according to the outlet. Who rents a house for $3,500 a month? That's a mortgage. That's more than an average mortgage. They know that one of the cars is new because it has a paper plate. It has the dealer tag on it, the dealer paper plate waiting for registration. They're also complaining about the army of Amazon trucks. It says the home has been getting flooded with deliveries, with Amazon trucks being seen making multiple drop-offs at the home daily, which I guess is annoying the neighbors. Peter wants to know, has he been charged with bringing a knife on the school grounds? He should be. I don't know if he was, for sure. Puck says yes. Puck responded yes. I hadn't read that, but he should have been. He should have been. Monkey says even if the person denied the alleged part, the media still have to say allegedly. True. Technically, they do. I mean, they know he's guilty because he said he's guilty. He admitted it. So wherever the hell they are, and I guess, is this it? That's an aerial shot of the gated community. One way in and one way out. Look at this. Must be nice. $3,500 a month in rent. That doesn't make any damn sense. That sounds like a mortgage on a property that expensive. Am I wrong? But apparently a new vehicle was purchased. I don't know, unless I missed it, I don't know if it says which vehicle had the paper tag. But 3 vehicles are parked outside. It says Carmelo Anthony moved to undisclosed location after reported death threats. And as I had expressed earlier, I had read that those death threats are exaggerated. Oh, Monkey says New York Times, Colorado versus Sullivan case is what made the allegedly phrase common. I see. Okay. And Peter says private communities look like concentration camps. They just want to keep everybody out. Nash said that'll be rent in the not too distant future. I guess it depends on where you are. And Puck says they saw the story. They left the $900,000 house for an undisclosed location. Someplace else they're renting? I don't know. They are a wealthy family. And speaking of which, we may as well see where they're at. And I'll go ahead and open up the Give, Send, Go and just see where he currently stands. I'm sure you're all chomping at the bit. Probably not, but you know. And that's the thumbnail picture. Give, Send, Go is currently at $515,938 with a new stretch goal of 600,000. They moved the stretch goal up again. Again, can't fault that because, you know, I think almost anybody who sets a stretch goal might move the goalpost if they hit it, even just a few dollars. Again, I think this started at 50,000. I love the 13-year-old school photo that they use for his picture. And I see they still haven't bothered to update that, not even a paragraph that they wrote there. There's almost nothing here. And it's in bad syntax anyways. I've talked about that before. And I always like looking at some of the comments from people who made a donation. Some of it makes no sense. Like this guy right here who donated $10. Stay strong. We not gone. Just let them lynch you because they made we protecting you. We not gone. Just let them lynch you just because they made we protecting you. And this person here, I've been donating weekly a small amount. I hope it helps. I believe the law that states you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I hope justice prevails. He said he was guilty. He already confessed to the first law enforcement officer that showed up. Said he did it. Karmelo's not denied his die process under the law equal. Justice for Karmelo. I will continue to donate. Cute. And then this person wants to quote the Bible. We're still praying, still trusting, still believing. No weapon that is formed against you shall prosper. Keep your head up, young man. We love you. Oh, that's cute. This person says that Karmelo's an upstanding young man. Yeah, sure. Sure he is. And then this one, following the narrative, one more. I'll read one more. Karmelo was a brave kid. He stood up to bullies. Hopefully he can finally move on with his life and put the nonsense behind him. He stood up to bullies. Can I just stab anybody I don't like? Can I want to go out in the street and just kill anybody I don't like. How about you? It's not how life works. Okay, we're not Vikings. Armin says 3,500, and even they had rules, by the way. You couldn't just do that in their society either. Armin suggests 3,500 in rent in San Francisco, premium price for premium exposure to drug use and theft. And Puck said Hunter Biden was paying 50,000 a month rent to his dad. I bet. I bet. Incredible. However, of course, the Metcalf family also has a GoFundMe. Carmelo Anthony also had a GoFundMe, but GoFundMe took it down because in their eyes, they're profiting from a crime, which is illegal. So they pulled it down because they don't want to have to deal with any legal repercussions for if and when he loses in court. Smart move. Give, Send, Go, the CEO of Give, Send, Go is in an article this morning, actually. I don't have it pulled up, but he was in an article this morning saying he regrets allowing them to get this far. He's having second thoughts about it now. I'm sure there's a lot of backlash. But here's the GoFundMe for the Metcalf family, which surprisingly is now ahead. It's now ahead because before it was maybe 60, 65% of what Carmelo was getting. Now they're ahead by about $25,000, $540,189 on the GoFundMe, with one person having made a $10,000 donation right here. It's right on this. It's right there. It's right there. So it's a little bit more, but at least they're fairly equal. At least they're fairly equal. Although the Metcalf family doesn't need a legal offense because the state will take care of that. And neither, in my opinion, does financial compensation make up for the loss of a child. Raccoon's surprised that Oprah didn't make a donation. No kidding. Maybe she's finally learned to stay the hell out of this kind of shit. Fluke Man wants an investigation into where Anthony's wealth comes from. I have no idea where that family gets their money. I don't know what they do for a living. I don't know what they get. There you go, Puck. I'll put that up. But yeah, they've actually inched ahead for the first time because, again, they were well behind. They were well behind Carmelo Anthony for quite a while. Although Carmelo Anthony is also selling T-shirts and stuff like that. They're getting support from rappers, whatever, whoever, whatever. Indeed. Indeed. That's where they are. That's where they are. But, we may as well move off of that subject real quick here. I wanted to, this is something that I wanted to talk about. Let's see if I get this. The link is acting funny. And this came down the pipe yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to get to it. I didn't get a chance to get to this this article, but I thought it was really interesting. And so naturally, I wanted to share. Just see what you think about this. San Francisco was mentioned. So, yeah, we're going to jump to California here real quick. Okay. And we're going to look at the stupid news of the week. Stupid news of the week. If this ad will stop. Newsweek article. Is it open up yet? Come on now. Yeah, Newsweek article. Okay. If I can get this closed. It's the age of technology to torment us. They want to make us all crazy. California proposes decriminalizing welfare fraud. I love it. The proposal to decriminalize small-scale welfare fraud in California highlights a broader debate about how the justice system should handle low-level financial offenses, particularly those involving vulnerable populations. They're not vulnerable enough to avoid taking advantage of people. Supporters argue that many alleged fraud cases stem from administrative mistakes rather than deliberate wrongdoing. Well, then they wouldn't be held accountable, would they? And that criminalizing errors as minor as $25 disproportionately harms low-income individuals. Opponents, however, warn that loosening penalties could encourage broader abuse of public assistance programs and undermine public trust in government services. The legislation comes at a politically sensitive time, as Democrats nationally face criticism from Republicans and some centrist voters for being perceived as softer on crime. They are. Critics argue that the measures like this could reinforce those perceptions and become potent talking points in future elections. However, the proposal comes at a time where the Department of Government Efficiency, established by Trump and led by Musk, has been set up to investigate possible fraud taking place in government agencies and having welfare agencies take the administration into their own hands in many ways. What Dodge or Doge was set up to do. California lawmakers are considering a proposal that would decriminalize certain types of welfare fraud under $25,000. So I can commit up to $25,000 worth of welfare fraud in California and you'll do nothing about it? Is that what you're telling me? Certain types, whatever that means. Whatever that means. I'll tell you right now, most welfare fraud is either A, people that lied on their application to get monetary compensation, or B, they're selling their SNAP card, which I've talked about before. All you have to do is let somebody use your card. They pay you 50 cents on the dollar. A lot of people do that. That's probably where the greatest amount of fraud exists, is actually in the leasing illegally of your SNAP card to someone else. Even out here, my wife and I have had people approach us in the supermarket asking us if we wanted to buy their card. You know, basically, I got $200 on this card. If you give me $100, I'll come through and I'll swipe and I'll pay your groceries for you. Give me cash. And we're like, no, that's all right. Leave us alone. Because I don't want to get involved in anything like that. Obviously, you don't need the money, so you shouldn't be getting it. You shouldn't be getting it. And it does need to be heavily investigated. Welfare fraud of all kinds. The entire welfare program needs to be revamped. And again, haven't seen that really done since Reagan. Just like with the IRS being investigated, haven't seen it done since Reagan. Anybody looking at that on a national scale and saying, this is really screwed up. Are you going to fix this? Are you going to do anything about it? I can almost guarantee, and again, personal experience, growing up in a housing project, almost guarantee at least half of the people on welfare are lying about something to get more than they deserve. Or more than they are entitled to, I should say. Because almost none of them deserve it. And that at least half of the people receiving food stamps are selling them. Or they're using the SNAP to buy garbage. They got a shop. Anytime you go to a supermarket and you see someone with a shopping cart full of soda and chips and frozen dinners, I can almost guarantee you that they're getting SNAP benefits. I can almost guarantee it. That they're going to swipe a state welfare debit card. As we get close to the end here, of course, there's your U.S. debt clock, just to see where we are at with projected Doge savings currently at $377 billion. It looks like it'll hit 378 by this evening. And I love the savings per taxpayer count, because that means that that's 3,362 per American citizen that they would have to take from us in taxes over time to compensate for the money that would have been spent if Doge didn't claw this back. So with that, we are at the top of the hour. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and Daniel stayed with me the whole time. Hey, Daniel, you sleeping? Daniel is still asleep in the chair back there. You are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. Special thanks to Rodney for making a donation to the channel today. And of course, to William for making a donation to the PayPal directly to help us with our feline fund with our shelter cats. Goes a long way, folks. It means a lot. So thank you, everybody else, for joining us here today. Hope you got something out of the conversation, and we will catch you again tomorrow.